The catalyst of the whole series. The beginning. Not quite opening at the close, but rather the beginning of the beginning. But for as much as we learn about why Voldemort chose to attack Harry as a baby, I feel like we still don't get the full picture. And we do learn a lot of the reasons why Voldemort chose to attack Harry as a baby from Dumbledore once Harry can finally hear the prophecy, and we also learn how Voldemort didn't hear the full prophecy, that because there were two boys that it could have been, that he made his choice, and because of that it sealed Harry's fate when it just as easily could have been Neville. And Dumbledore even gives us an explanation as to why Voldemort chose Harry over Neville, because usually it would be his creed that would say, hey, Neville's the pureblood here, he's the one who would be the bigger threat. But he sees himself in Harry instead because Harry, just like Voldemort, is a half-blood. And let's be honest, when I'm talking about Voldemort's supposed creed, he really doesn't have one. He has no morals, no principles. The only things that really guide him are his fear of death and his need to be important. It just so happens that being a pureblood is something that can serve him. He's able to better rally the other purebloods into giving into the dark arts because of their hatred of Muggleborns, and, it helps him feel superior because he happens to be one of them, but at the end of the day, he doesn't really care about their movement or anything that they do. It just serves him well. That was the case even when he was a teenager opening the Chamber of Secrets.
Haven't I told you? Killing mudbloods doesn't matter to me anymore.
And while I do believe that Dumbledore is right about what Voldemort is thinking and believing that Harry is the bigger threat between him and Neville, I don't really think it tells us the full story of why Voldemort attacked Harry as a baby, because he can still believe that he's the one who will be born with the power to defeat him, but he can also wait to be sure. I mean, that's something even Harry brings up when he first hears the prophecy, and, we all know that Harry's no Ravenclaw. Now, the most obvious reason for why Voldemort attacked Harry as a baby is because he just wants to finish him off as soon as possible. He doesn't want to give him the time to learn how to use this power that could defeat the Dark Lord, and it is the simplest explanation. It's in character for Voldemort, so I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. In fact, I think it's very true, because deep down we all know that Voldemort's just a big old scaredy cat. The interesting thing about this, though, is that he doesn't know that Harry is the chosen one because he hasn't heard the second part of the prophecy. Now, of course, if he had heard it, he would know that he is choosing the one with the power to defeat him, but in his mind, he believes it's Harry, but he doesn't know that for a fact. He could finish off Harry in Godric's Hollow, and there's still the possibility that there's another boy out there who could have the power to defeat him. So, you see where I'm going with this yet?
Why is it always me?
Yes, if we continue with this logic here that Voldemort is just going to eliminate any threat as soon as possible, then it only makes sense that if he had succeeded in killing Harry at Godric's Hollow, that he would immediately go after the Longbottoms next and try to kill Neville, just on the off chance that he was wrong about Harry being the chosen one. But the thing about that is, if he would have gone after Neville after the fact, then could he have also gone after him before going after Harry? Personally, I can't think of any reason why his plan wouldn't be to kill both Harry and Neville, and if that was the plan all along, then are we sure that he's actually choosing Harry? Isn't it just possible that he's able to get to Harry first because he just so happens to have the Potter's secret keeper working for him? Okay, hear me out. Both the Potters and the Longbottoms are obviously part of the Order of the Phoenix at this time, which puts Dumbledore in charge of their security. Now, it doesn't really make sense for him to use the Fidelius charm for just the Potters, so I think what is most likely happening is that the Fidelius charm is used on both the Potters and the Longbottoms' homes, and that's because when the Fidelius charm is actually used correctly, it pretty much makes the location impossible to find. So if the Longbottoms were using the Fidelius charm, then the obvious question is who would have been their secret keeper? Because, obviously we don't even know if they did have it. I mean, it only makes sense, but we obviously don't get the answer, and my guess has always been that it's Neville's grandmother. Oh, right, we didn't get Neville's grandmother in the movies. Fix that, HBO. And the reason why I would say that it wasn't either Frank or Alice who was the secret keeper is because what's more important for the Order at this time is making sure that the information can get to Dumbledore. So that was why the Potters originally thought, hey, let's choose Sirius, and then Peter after the fact, and why the Longbottoms would also pick somebody outside of the immediate family, even though it's obviously just Neville's grandmother, but somebody who's not living in the home, who can report to Dumbledore, and that's where, sure, Dumbledore could be the secret keeper himself. I don't really think it's worth the risk, though, just because of how much of a high-value target he could be, so it would just make sense that Sirius would tell Hagrid the secret so that Hagrid could report to Dumbledore, and then the Longbottoms would tell Neville's grandmother, who would then also report to Dumbledore. Also, if you want to know more about why that's how it had to happen, and just more about the Fidelius charm in general, you can click on the card up here. And to further establish why it had to be Voldemort's plan to go after the Potters and the Longbottoms, it's the only reason that it makes sense that the Lestranges and Barty Crouch Jr. thought that the Longbottoms would know what happened to Voldemort, because the same protections were up for both families, and Voldemort fell at the Potter's place, so the same protections must have been up on Neville too, and oh god, that's probably why Neville is okay too, now that I think about it. Like, they torture the Longbottoms into insanity, but they're afraid to go after Neville because they think if they try to attack him, they'll suffer the same fate as Voldemort. And back to the idea of the video, this is me trying to get into Voldemort's head to establish what he's thinking at the time, and I just think that it didn't really matter in his mind who he goes after first. The opportunity arose to go after Harry first, so that's why he went after Harry. Had he been able to go after Neville first, I think he would have gone after Neville too, and all of this comes down to the fact that Voldemort just really lacks patience and fears death so much that he will do anything to avoid it, and the irony of this is that in his quest to be an immortal being, he cannot at all think like an immortal being. Because if he could think like an immortal being, then he would have the patience to not have to deal with every threat immediately. He'd be able to sit back and think and plan it through so that he could properly deal with these things so that they wouldn't be a threat to him. What's a week, a month, a year, a decade, a century even to an immortal being? It's just a blip. But Voldemort doesn't think like that because he is unable to overcome his fear of death, and it becomes the thing that dictates everything in his life. It's the reason why he makes 7 Horcruxes. It's the reason why he discounts the power of love. And it's the reason why there is just no magic that is too dark for him to do. Anything is on the table as long as he does not die. And at the end of the day, that's why he gets defeated. And even more ironically, it's the one he chooses who is able to overcome this fear of death and truly be able to think like an immortal being. Because when Harry goes into the Forbidden Forest to die, Voldemort obviously just thinks that, oh, Harry's just sacrificing himself so others won't suffer, but that's not what Harry's doing here. He is going into the forest as an offensive move to destroy the Horcrux in him so that Voldemort can be one step closer to dying. You can only make a move like this when death no longer affects you, because this isn't even the final nail in the coffin. This is just one step in the greater plan. Harry is playing chess with Voldemort here, and is both humble enough to realize that he's not the king, and smart enough to realize that, hey, I have to sacrifice myself so that he can be defeated. And because Harry is able to get to this higher plane of understanding, he's able to come back from the dead, or at least as close as you can get to dying in the Harry Potter series while still coming back, but either way, this is what makes him the master of death. And I love how, once again, this shows just how terrible of a planner Voldemort was, because he didn't have the first idea of what it meant to be an immortal being. And I don't even mean in like the normal ways that people don't really consider the fact that they're going to outlive all life and the sun and the stars, where, you're not able to die in any way, no matter how much you're starving or dehydrated or even suffocating. You aren't able to die. It's a constant state of pain after a while, which at the end of the day is what Voldemort gets. And, because he didn't know what he was getting into, he gets exactly what he wanted. He is unable to die in this state and will be in a constant state of pain for all of eternity. He could be sitting there for centuries and in his pain could maybe think, oh, maybe death wouldn't be so bad, but it's too late for him at that point. He's gonna suffer forever, no matter how much he may want to get out of it.
I don't really feel like it.
Knowing Voldemort, though, he is either probably wrong and thinks that this is death, or he'd be so scared of what could be worse than this that he'd rather suffer in pain forever anyway. But now I want to shift the question to you guys. Do you think Voldemort would have been better off if he had waited to see who would be the bigger threat between Harry and Neville, or would he have just failed no matter what? I mean, I know I don't have a very high opinion of Voldemort's ability to plan, but I think it could be an interesting what-if to explore, so drop a comment if you want to see me dive into that. But that's all I got for you guys today, so if you enjoyed, please drop a like, subscribe if you want more like this. I'll see you next time on STV.